So I know you most for signet rings.
Signet rings, yeah.
I was assuming you do more than just signet rings, but that's fine. I know you. You want me through those first?
The whole project started when I met Paolo Panko in Florence. I think it was 2012, so 12 years ago. I was studying for my master's degree at NYU's campus in Florence, and stumbled upon Paolo's workshop, saw him working away at his workbench, and was completely enamored with what I witnessed, because you literally saw a work of, it was jewelry, but it was really a work of art come to life before your eyes. We got to know each other better. Fast forward a few years, I have this idea to create a company in the United States that would represent artisans like Paolo and make his art available to people to purchase custom. And so we had to land on an item that was representative of Paolo's work, was representative of the concept we were trying to convey, which is promoting the idea of patronage among the luxury consumer in the United States. This ring is not fit to be sold. It's a casting of a casting of a casting of a casting that wore it down, made all the edges really soft and rounded. I started wearing it. People really liked it. And before I actually had a business opened, we started just selling a few here and there to friends and everything. And we've done really, really well with it. It's at this point we've essentially made a name for ourselves as like a signet ring company, even though over the past couple of years since I formalized this business, we've begun making many more different items, as you can see on the table. Since the whole mission of the business is meant to support the idea of patronage and encourage our clients to be patrons of the arts. After meeting Paolo and meeting a few artisans through him, I was very keen on expanding this collective of artisans as much as I could and creating opportunities through the product that we developed for them to collaborate with one another. Okay. The stones that we have available are basically whatever you can think of that's hard enough to sustain an engraving.
To understand your inspiration, Byzantine, Roman, do you ever revive ancient rings, or are they always new?
Yes. And of course, some of these pieces are museum quality. So typically those are pieces that we recommend for a personal collection. To take an ancient artifact and give it new life in a newly made setting, in this case, a newly made ring.
So are you still primarily a signet company? You've moved quite far beyond.
I would say, like, in terms of volume of what we sell, signet rings is definitely number one. Okay. As a company, we've evolved beyond that. I think signet rings are the most emblematic items of what we offer. What I like to say is that we started out creating objects that decorate the person, and slowly but surely want to decorate their environment as well. Okay. So it started out with signet rings, moved into pendants, and then now we also work with an artisan that does hand-woven fabrics, but they also make boxes like this, jewelry boxes like this for sure.
So a lot of, not just artists, but signet companies, they'll have a house style. Mm-hmm. But like, even these two are very divergent in their style. Mm-hmm. You don't so much have a house style, it seems more like your style is, it has to be fully produced in Italy. Is that, that's the artist collective ethos, I guess? Yeah. L'Arte Nascosta as a brand didn't start with the idea of being a brand. Okay. It started with the idea of being a bridge that from Italy to America can be traveled by artisans, master artisans, top of their craft, people that make really extraordinary things. So the brand identity, as stupid as it sounds, is basically Italy. And I say that because while there are extraordinarily talented artisans in France, in England, in Japan, of course, just to name three big names, but you can choose any country in the world. Sure. Italy is what I know. It's what my background is. It's what my heritage is. Right. And it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. So this guarantees essentially that it's authentic, high quality, representative, or even, you're resurrecting ancient pieces. Mm-hmm. So you're that connection to the client of, I'm getting authentic Italian craftsmanship that I know is real, that I never would have found even if I had walked all through Florence myself. Right. Is that?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. But here it's about the process, and I can't possibly sell you on the process if I don't explain the process from beginning to end. Sure. And convey the greatest value of the process, which is not me as a designer or the creator behind it, but it's the artisan that makes it.
And access.
Exactly, right.
That's really what we provide, is access, which is why I wanted to talk to you. So what does that access look like what is the process in ordering from you kind of start to finish?
The process is very organic. Client likes a signet ring. The idea of a signet ring, we'll send them pictures of previous commissions. We have quite an extensive archive at this point of previous commissions, just to give them various ideas and various visual references. Okay. The next step is discussing a subject that they'd like. I would say kind of 60% of the time, the patron has an exact idea of what they want, and we kind of have a little bit of a back and forth in which I sketch various interpretations of their idea that I know will render well in the final engraving. The artisan is available also to kind of create, I guess, like a first draft or just like a more precise sketch of what the actual finished product would be.
I would assume that you would discuss budget range, what's a bottom and top end for?
Yeah, so bottom end would be a sterling silver signet ring. They start at $595.
Okay. Engraved or as the blank?
$5 engraved.
Engraved.
Yeah. And top range would be our gemstone styles, which at this point are coming in about $4,500.
Okay.
For our sterling silver signet rings and our solid gold signet rings, the price is pretty level. We update the price about silver has stayed the same for about 2 years or so, but for gold, since the price does go up so quickly, we update them about every 6 months or so. Okay. And then there might be kind of a variance of about $100 plus or minus, depending on the complexity of the subject.
Not very much.
So yeah, right. So it's
okay. So we're at sub 5 on pretty much all the rings.
Yeah.
And then total timeline from commission to completion.
So once we have the design to completion, for our rings in solid metal, it'll be 6 to 8 weeks is what I like quoting. So we ask for our clients' patience as well. We always remain available for updates at any point throughout the process. And if there's a particular deadline, we ask for that up front. And we just set those commissions to the front of the production queue so that there's not, any risk of missing the deadline. For rings that require different steps, that's a little bit more difficult to do because, for example, for these rings that have the engraved gemstones, there's the stone cutter that has to cut the stone, the stone engraver that has to engrave the stone, and that's very much like an artist's work. There's no way to make that process more efficient. So if she has a bunch of commissions, she just has to work through her list one by one. We can ask her to kind of push one commission ahead of another, and she's very flexible in terms of that, but there's just like material amount of time that it takes to do an engraving. And then that has to travel from Naples to Florence, and then it has to be set by the stone setter and finished by Paolo and everything like that. So in one ring, there are 4 artisans. So this is a micro mosaic. This is an item that's quite expensive. It comes between $5,500 and $6,000. Okay. The frame is made in 18 karat gold by Paolo Penco. So this is a piece that I can say I designed. I'm quite proud of it. The frame itself is in a shape called the barbed quatrefoil. So this is a shape that once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah. So it's a shape that you recognize from water fountains all over Italy and France. Get it while you can. It's not to say they're going to be discontinued next year or they won't be available next year, but maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, who knows? Okay. I really do think we're witnessing an era in which and I feel very strongly about this. That's why we created the second portion of our business, which is the bespoke tours, to bring people to these places, to bring them to the artisan workshops and show them really what we're losing. We don't mean to be too melancholic about that, but it's the it's an actual state of affairs. That these crafts are certainly endangered. Many of them are extinct. And so while there are artisans that will continue to survive and thrive, like goldsmiths that make products that there's a cultural awareness for, there are many other artisans, like I mentioned earlier, stone engravers that are difficult to come by. Micro mosaicists are certainly extraordinarily difficult to come by. And so that's a big part of the reason why we're doing this, because I think the world will be an impoverished place if we lose the talents that, if we don't continue to sustain the talents that maintain these crafts, that ultimately they're beautiful for the craft themselves, but the real reason why they're beautiful is because they're tools for us to express ourselves.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Say it for me one more time again.
L'arte nascosta.
Arte nascosta.
Yeah.